Alright, let's try this again. So, a while back, I started riding again, which is a good thing. I've been wanting to get some exercise, so me and a friend are riding at the park. And it sort of reignited a little bit of a passion for skate park, skateboarding, BMX, all that stuff. And our park was built back when it was kind of a free-for-all. You could build whatever you wanted. As far as I think it was Grindline that did our park, or was it what was the other one? It wasn't Grindline. So our park was built in a time where they didn't use rebar. A lot of the construction methods they have now for parks that have proven to be good construction methods weren't used back then. There's lots of cracks, lots of separation, lots of spalling in the bottom of the bowls, places where the coping's coming loose. Just all things that were done by people who were skaters, but not necessarily good at construction. And so there's all kinds of inconsistencies in the transitions and just some poor practices that I would consider in today's skate park standards completely unacceptable. So it got me looking into the new parks that are being built out there and the new companies that are doing that. I won't really name any of them because I don't know them. So I don't want to either lift them up or besmirch their names. But I can definitely tell that park building has gotten more standardized and there's more thought given to everything. Drainage, material specs, definitely better coping. I'm sure there's exceptions to that where local areas do their own parks and they don't turn out well. But for sure, it seems like the parks that are being built to much higher standards now. So I went online, went on YouTube, and tried to look and see if there was anybody using CAD software to design skate parks. And I couldn't find any CAD videos on skate park design. Well, that's not true. The few that I did were in SketchUp. I can't remember. There might have been a couple for Rhino, which obviously Rhino's far more capable than SketchUp. I can't believe anybody would design a skate park in SketchUp. So I thought I would do a video on skate parks in Solidworks. And I've been using SolidWorks a long time. And I wanted to see what the workflow would look like. So this first park, obviously, is my first attempt at a park. It's also my first attempt at workflow for this type of thing. The caveat is that it's probably not that good. But at least there will be some video out there about using SolidWorks to do skate park design. So we'll get into it. So this park is from the point of view of a BMX guy, right? And that's going to automatically turn a bunch of you skaters off. I will tell you that I love watching the skaters skate. I skated for many years when I was younger. I did both vert skating and street skating. I was never good enough to consider myself good at either of them. I was probably a 4 out of 10. So I definitely know what it's like to street skate. I never street skated a skate park, never had skate parks when I skated. There was a large 10-foot half pipe with a 3-foot vert extension on it that I also skated way back. So I would hope if you're a skater, you don't jump off here. I know with the current trend in street skating, there's seems to be less transition skaters, and seems like all the guys I watch on YouTube are older skaters that do transition skating. So you can definitely tell from the line on the left side that this is a BMX line here, obviously. And then I tried to make a skate line over here, and then there's kind of a bypass around the outside over across the back here. And so I think maybe the goal for today would just be to go through. So I'm talking to maybe two different audiences here. Maybe there's some of you that are SolidWorks people. So from a skater or bike point of view, you've seen what you needed, and you probably maybe have clicked off. But this is really about the CAD part of it. It's really not about the skate park itself. And if this video does okay, or maybe even if it doesn't do okay, I think I'm going to do some more of these. I enjoy it as a creative outlet. So we'll move me out of the way here and get to it. So maybe the easiest way to do this would be to go through how I constructed the park this time around. I tried to group the park into two chunks. One was concrete and the other was metal. And so you'll see as we get down near the bottom, I'll scroll down there now that all of the coping and stuff is down here in a separate folder. And it was just to try to have some degree of design flow. So anyways, we'll get to it here. Okay, so the easiest thing to do here is a walkthrough. And if there's a follow-up to this video, I think I'm going to modify those handrails. You know, I've been poaching some of the skate park websites, and I realized that the handrail here is old school, and it seems like a lot of the guys are doing more of a connected end handrail. Not sure if this one would even work. This is I think that's 4x2, so I don't know, or maybe that's 2x3. Anyways, it's a square handrail. So let's see here. So what we'll do is we'll roll back and talk through it. So I think what would happen in real life is you'd get a site plan, and maybe you'd have some influence over the grading where the park itself's at. I would imagine you would. I have sketches. Actually, let's do that first. So this is my napkin sketch. Obviously, it's pretty cheesy. Let me flip it around so it matches the park. So that was the initial pass. I thought I was going to have a berm looking thing on the right side there, and ended up not doing that. So that's my first sketch. And then, let's see, we'll flip this around as well. We need to go that way. So this was an early part of the model. And you can see I had that circular thing there is kind of a dot with stairs all the way around it. And there's a whole bunch of sketching here. I started to sketch out sidewalks all around the perimeter of the property, and then I just didn't want to go that far on this particular model. It actually turns out it's quite hard to trim out the park, since all of the objects in this park are up off of grade. It just ended up kind of being this like, it was going to be a huge pain in the ass to do the landscaping. And so I actually think that for me, for this first go around, interfacing with a landscape architect would have been a real challenge. I probably would have had to have changed the park up quite a bit in order to um, get it to drain properly and or make the landscape architect happy. So anyways, you can see all the sketching I did, and I tried to line things up and a bunch of scribbly scrabble there. So um, we'll drop that down here and get that out of the road. Not very good at what I'm doing here yet. So I started out with I believe that's 100 by 80. Let me check and make sure. Yeah, 100 long by 80 across. And you'll see later I had to add some down here because I just ran out of room on this 100 by 80 chunk. So we'll go through this from a SolidWorks standpoint. So everything so far is real basic. I did a boss extrude for the top and the back. I'm going to step through this fairly quick. We got some filleting to soften just one of the corners. And then we've got a hard sweep. And I believe the next two are filleting those hard corners. And let's see, yeah. What's the cut extrude? Okay, so the cut extrude removes the height on the right side of the deck over there. I'm going to use a variable fillet to fillet that right side up to where the coping's going to match up to that eased edge. And we're going to take a look at a sweep here. So I swept a set of stairs around that edge right there. And where's my sketch at? Let's see. So the sketch is even with this side here, and I just swept it right into this face here. And the sweep path you can see there in the dotted blue. So, and then this was a couple days, by the way. So for me to do any sort of streaming of it would, if that's going to be popular someday, would be a pretty big deal. So then I did a surface extrude, and you're going to see that that's how I terminate one of the next features. And you can see the breadcrumbs in 2018. So that's my roll in over on that side. So you have a way to come down the deck right here. This is pretty steep. I'm not sure if that's a good or right. That's 25 degrees. So to give you an idea, this is 35 feet from the top down to the edge here. So it would be a little concerning. I would probably make a miniature, probably 3D print this and just kind of check it out. Make it fingerboard sized. What else do we got? Surface offset. I know what that's for. That's so I can cut the, I can extrude the curb up to it. So this curb right here is extruded up to this surface offset. You can see in blue. And that just gives me something to terminate the extrude against, because the extrude actually was made, get a top view here. The extrude was made planar. It's just easier to control the shape that way. And then it terminates against that surface offset. And this area right here is a little tall. I'm not sure I like that, but that's the way it is. And we got a fillet. So that's just filleting all the corners of that curb. And what was this fillet here? Oh, that was easing that edge next to the steps. And I noticed something on a current skate park that I saw that I really liked, where guys will chuck their boards. They put metal nosing on the last step to protect it. I think I would do that as well. It's not in this one, but I think I would do that on maybe the last two steps that you guys are looking at there, just to protect them, to keep them from getting chipped up. Where are we at from here? Let's see. All right. So the next part here is the deck for this next feature. And then I did a boundary surface because, so the reason for this from a SolidWorks standpoint, I used the top edge here and the bottom as my rails. And then what I have is the face over there is an 8-foot radius, and the face over here is a 16-foot radius. It's a much, much bigger radius, and that's meant so you can hip this direction. And I did a delete face for some reason. What did I do? Why did I do that? Oh, so this fillet here carried through. So I just got rid of that by doing a delete face. So let's see. Now we've got the deck for this other piece here. This deck is 8 feet high, and this deck is 6 feet high. 6, 8. Move that over here. I can see it. And then this one was just a simple fillet feature around it. It just makes it easy for me. It's got an 8-foot radius on a 6-foot deck, so it doesn't quite go to vert, which I don't think anybody would want. What do I got? Some surface planes here for? This is my deck construction. So this is where I decided late in the model that I needed to close in. So originally the park was like this, and it just didn't terminate well. There, you could end up, if you had a bad day, you could go off the corner here, and so I just didn't like, same thing over here, although I was going to use grass to terminate that. But so this is a late in the process decision, and that's why I had to add it back here. But these surface planes allow me to loft between them. And the reason for that is I wanted a smooth transition from the 8-foot deck to the 6-foot deck. And I still wanted this flat part to follow the top deck here. So these are planar. And then I wanted a transition between the two that was smooth and tangent. So there's some surface modeling here. I knitted them together. I then used a sketch to trim out what I wanted. And there's a problem with the park, and I'll show you when we get there. But so then I used a sketch to trim that surface out. So we'll go to the top here. So you can see this is my sketch from the top. And like you can even see there's like a nib right here that I'm going to have to deal with at some point that just didn't work out in the original kind of master plan I had. So then we're going to do some type of cut extrude, which is what? What is that? Oh, that actually was trimming that nib off. So I trimmed that off to match the new top. Surface extrudes probably the back. Sure is. Let's see here. I put a bottom on it, so I'm just starting to patch this in from a surfacing perspective. I deleted the face that's inside there, which capped the back of the park originally. So now we have this sort of open box that I've just got to do this face here. I believe next I'm going to knit all that together, and that gives me a open region, so it just gives me something I can work on right here. What do I got? Surface plane. Then I wanted to fill the bottom in, so this is the new bottom for that opening there. And why don't I get a surface trim? Oh, but I trimmed that back. I trimmed off. So when I go back before this does not match. You see that little overlap? So I drew this arc in tangent to this. If I go to the surface plane, this arc, this radius is tangent out here somewhere. And so that surface trim was just a way to get that surface trim back to the tangent point and do a trim off both the face here and then the bottom here that had kind of this little leftover sliver. So for you guys that do surfacing in Solidworks, these are little golden nuggets that I've earned over time. Maybe you don't care. And then I knit the bottom in, and then I'm going to loft. Now, the problem with this loft is, and we'll get to the surface knit. Did I make that all one color? Yes. So, the problem with this loft is out here it's great, and back over here it's great. But when I get so it's nice and fat out here, easy to land in. As you move into this center section, it gets very, very sharp. So this is very elliptical. I could define exactly how elliptical this is right here if I would put another rail in there, something to tell it what it had to stick to. For the purposes of today's video, I'm not going to do that, but you can see how sharp all of the transitions in about 2 feet right here, or a foot. So I think from a skateboarding perspective, you generate a shitload of speed right there, but from a BMX perspective, you really easily could go over the bars, I think. So we'll drop that back out. And we'll get back to it here. So variable fillets, I did that because I knew the coping was going to stop right here. So I did a variable fillet and just ended the fillet right at the end right there. And then I actually named this part. So this is the right side of the park, the table over here. That's just the deck. That deck is, where is it? I don't see it. Oh, the deck is 3 feet tall. And then I chamfered this face here. And then I swept stairs across the front there. And I think I just delete faced that out, so it trimmed it nicely. So I just deleted that back face. So if you haven't used this before, I know that by deleting those two faces, it's basically going to extend the face here. Yep, don't want to do that. It's going to extend it out through those other pieces. So I trim that off. I believe the next one is a chamfer on the other end. Is that right? Yeah. And that chamfer was able to terminate those stairs as well. And then I filleted everything. And I believe the next sketch is the control sketch for all of the rails out here and out here over on the table. A little grind wall here. So at first I had this as just a grind wall made out of concrete, and then I've noticed that a lot of the new park design, they're capping all of their grind surfaces with metal so that it just lends itself to not wearing out. And I like that idea. In fact, I noticed that they're fabbing up some grind boxes that are all metal on the sides so they can't be chipped out. So did that. I also saw some architectural features I liked. So the fillet there is just on that top nub. Let's see. At this feature here, so I noticed, it's going to do two things. So what these are going to be, one is going to be an architectural feature to remove material for just a nice look. The top one here is a body that I'm going to use to subtract out for coping later. So let's exit isolate and we'll get back down there. So I'm going to shell them. The first shell is just going to be the bottom one there. I shelled it at 1 inch, so you'll see why in a sec. Top one's going to be shelled at 2 inches because we're going to use 2-inch square tubing. And I'm going to do a combined subtraction. So you can see the bottom one there is just an architectural feature. I saw it on another skate park and I really liked it. And if the person designing the park happens to see it, he'll know. Let's see. We'll just keep moving down the line here. The way the coping, or the coping works out, the square coping, because this isn't 90 degrees, I have to actually, so if I go above this, if I rotated the tubing the way it is right there, you'd have this mismatched tubing. You'd have tubing running down and then tubing square, and it just wouldn't be right at all. So the tubing has to be in line no matter what. So I had to make a square cut in the concrete. So that, and then I'm going to move the face to make up for the distance being too far. And then I filleted the corners because I don't want them getting broke out from abuse. Or you could put metal down the corners. What sketch is this here? This is probably the handrail. Nope. So this is just a master. This locates another feature. This is going to be a grind box out here. That just gives me a location and size. Going to put a plane down and we're going to extrude. So there's the first part of that grind rail. Throw some filleting on there, and we're going to profile the concrete, so fillet, and then we're going to do a cut extrude, and we're going to mirror that, and that's just to give a little bit of underhang, and then I'm going to chamfer that, and you could call that kind of an architectural feature. I just thought that shape was kind of cool for concrete. And then we're going to extrude another feature through the bottom of it. And that'll make sense here in just a second. Chamfer the face. And ease the edges with a fillet. And, sorry guys. Now you can see that's just got sides on it. So and then what is that? Oh, that's the first part of our tabletop. I'm gonna fillet the corners and then sweep the table. Why did I sweep it? I wonder why I didn't fillet it. I think you could probably fillet that, but I swept it for some reason, so don't have a good explanation there. And then I ease the top. This is the BMX portion over here, or You know, there's skaters that would hit that, but it's definitely got a BMX bend to it. And then I'm a super fan of step jumps, and they don't ever put them in skate parks that I know of. So I definitely wanted a small step here so you can kind of see how I went. So simple boss extrude side profile is here. And you can see the shape I want, but it was easier to. I had to work on this quite a bit. It took me a while to develop this shape, so you'll kind of see how I ended up stepping through it because the end is hard to finish. So then we're going to extrude a block out there just to get some width, and we're going to fillet the corners so it'll sweep properly. And then I put the top on it, so there's the actual step jump. And I ended it over here. I had to have some way of terminating this area right here. And I wanted the top to sweep around. So first thing is this. So this is just a sweep from one side to the other. And you'll see that I'd maintained the sweep. I actually did a cheat. It was leaving like these weird anomalies in the corner where the sweep was pulling away from the corner. So I overlapped it a little bit back here. And I'll just you can see that I've got a construction line here and then a solid line there. It's a 1 inch overlap. And that was just so it wouldn't have some weird ass anomalies. And then I'm going to have another loft, which is going to kind of cap this end here. Just gives me some continuity between this face and this face over here. And then I'm going to delete out all that crap inside and cap it. So I'm going to do a delete face, and this delete face is going to put this blob on here that's got tangency, and you can see kind of the shape that it is. A little hard to pick up, but basically it flows kind of up and over right here, and then it's got continuity across and makes kind of this dome out here, which they would obviously have to hand finish that. So all right, so we'll get to the next thing here. Now the way Solidworks works, when I roll this down, you guys are going to see everything all at once, and I'll have to roll it back because it's inside of a folder. So boom, everything goes all at once. Super unhappy, resolving tons of crap inside the folder. All because, so here we go. Hey Solidworks, I should be able to click this down arrow even if it's suppressed. Yeah? I don't know if I can. Let's not make fun of them. Let's roll that back and see if I can. Nope. Sure as shit can't. But now that I've got it opened up, I can do it the way I wanted. So, what do I got here? So I obviously had to make some cuts, and I grouped those in with the handrail. The cuts are in the concrete for the coping. This is where I decided how much overlap I was going to have. So I've got a 1/2 inch on top and a 1/4 inch on the face. And this is 3 inch coping, which may be too big, I'm not sure. It'd be super hard to roll that and bend it. Probably too big, probably 2 inch, I don't know. You guys tell me. And then we're going to sweep the coping around, and looks like I also uncovered a handrail location, so this just locates from a top view where the handrail is going to go. And then the next sketch, what is that there? Oh, that. So there's some stuff I did at the last. It was kind of, I don't know. I don't particularly like this control, but this sketch is solely here to locate one of the center supports for the handrail. So it's how I did it. I don't know that it was the most elegant way, but elegant, elegant, elegant way. So here you can see my handrail, and sorry guys, this was made up in a way that allows the skaters to hit the end of it. I noticed that's popular in the parks right now. I haven't skated in years, so I didn't even know there was such a thing. But yeah, that's a thing. So then you're gonna see the rectangular tubing get extruded across the top. That's should go into the, obviously the bottom of this would be buried in the concrete, but for simplicity's sake I didn't do that. And then the two pipes that support the bottom, and then we're going to trim everything up to park. So I trimmed the round tubing to the square tubing. And this, if you've never used it before, this is the weldment part of Solidworks. And then the last trim here is just going to be me trimming that square tube off at the top of the park up there, right here. And then this comp curve is because this part of the park is fairly complicated. So that's a composite curve, and you can get to that right here under curves, composite. And it just allowed me to pick all these edges to run the coping against. And then I'll do my cut over here. I had to do that slightly differently because this is so flat out here that it wasn't trimming. You can even see how degraded this edge is. It's just got a lot, it's kind of a mess. So I had to cheat and stick my coping up here a fair amount. So the coping over here is a ½ inch out and a ½ inch up above the deck. So I had to do that because it was doing funky stuff as it went around this corner. And then let's see, we'll sweep our coping around. So there's the coping. And then what's this? Sketch 141. Oh, so now we're starting to add our handrails over here, and we haven't gotten back to that yet. We will in a sec. So we got this handrail here. And again, this is using the weldments tools. We've got some trimming. Trim the middle of that face and then trim the top to the deck up here. Let's see, next sketch is going to be the one over here. Oh, that's going to be this one. No, where is it? Sorry, I lost my place, guys. That's this one. This is the traditional handrail that would have been an old school handrail. And so got that. Got our handrail right there. And then I tried out 3D sketching for this particular one. So I was able to just grab the whole top because who wants to hand sketch in? And all you're doing is you're telling SolidWorks what the path is for the tubing. And this is 2x2 by 1875. Now, one of the things that I noticed in the new park design, they're bringing the concrete right up to the edge of the metal. So it makes me think they're actually building these things out of plate stock, like 1/4-inch plate, and not tubing when they build these grind box things. Because the problem I had here is that with regular tubing, you have a huge corner radius as this gets thicker, you end up with a large corner radius. And so I know they're not doing this. And I don't think they're bringing the concrete up to this edge. So that makes me think they're using plate. But We didn't do that here, so. And then this is this. So I was going to explain why I did all that trimming there. You can see that the way this works out, it had to stick over. It actually sticks past the face of that edge there. And let's see, what do I got here? Cut sweep. What was this? I don't even remember what that was. Oh, that's this angle. So then I just thought, well, I'll put angle on. Sorry, guys. Yikes. So I thought I'd put angle on this one. So this is borrowing, this cut sweep borrows the profile from the L angle on the weldment. So this cut sweep, you can see the breadcrumbs actually showing it's using that. That's why it only has one feature. Then we've got the L angle, which is right here. Note that it doesn't, it's cut square, so I have to do a trim extend on both ends to get it to come out to the end of that. And then we're going to mirror the cut, and we're going to mirror the metal. So there's that. And then I think that brings us to the end of the park. I was going to do something really fancy up here with a really crazy 3D. It's a 3D spline. And I used the radiate, I extruded it and then used so it's a surface extrude. And then I radiated a surface to make sure that the surface stayed plumb or level to the ground. And it just was going to be really complex. I was going to have to do a blend, and I was going to trim off the back of the park, and you can see it's unhappy because I had it connected to some other geometry. So there's geometry here that kept the original spline tangent to the back of the park where it touches it, and I abandoned that because that was going to be a whole bunch of work and I just didn't feel like putting it in there. But basically it was going to be a berm. I'm sure I could spend another couple of hours and complete it, but just to do a berm like that is hours of work, and so, or at least for me it is. So I didn't feel like doing all the blending that I was going to need to do to get that right, and I didn't like how I was going to have to try to trim out the back of the park, so just didn't do it. But anyways, guys, I think that anyways, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up for this one. If you enjoyed this content, leave a like, make a comment, and see you guys on the next one. Talk to you later. Bye.